Hello, everyone. So thank you so much again for being on this pod, Do What's Within Emerging Markets, time for emerging markets. I'm honored to have Anirudh here. He's based in India, and I think he has a very interesting story and a background of um, some experience of what it's like to do, to be a VC, venture capitalist. And I think his story is worth sharing, and there's a lot we can learn from an amazing uh, young VC and entrepreneur like him. So welcome again on the pod, and please, if you can just introduce yourself to start with.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Jacob, for having me on the podcast. So I think to just quickly introduce myself to the listeners, I am Anirudh. I currently work for a venture capital fund in India called Speciale Invest. So I'll probably take a step back and start by telling you a little more about where I grew up and then how did I land up into venture capital, and then would love to explain more about that, right? So I think I
Awesome.
grew up in a town in India. I I came from a business family, always wanted to do something related to business and entrepreneurship and startups, but went on to do my engineering from BITS Pilani, which is one of the most reputed engineering colleges in India. Then I think I spent around 4 years of my time doing chemical engineering from BITS. But even while I was in college, I spent good amount of time working with early stage companies and consulting companies to just understand and explore my business motivations and to understand what I actually want to do in life. I was pretty clear that I didn't really want to get into chemical engineering after my college and want to do something which is more business related and strategy related in the longer term. So
Mm-hmm.
I interned with a couple of organizations like Paytm, which is one of the largest fintech companies in India. Then I worked with a consulting company called PricewaterhouseCoopers. I did consulting there for about 6 months as an intern. And then I wanted to do something again after I graduated. I wanted to do something in the tech space, probably like a business plus a technology role. So I got recruited at a company called Flipkart, which is now owned by Walmart Labs. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the first unicorns coming out of India. It's the largest e-commerce company in India, and it changed the entire venture capital and startup ecosystem in India. So I joined there as a business analyst. I spent around 7 months doing multiple things. Started doing pricing for one of the fashion categories there, handled the P&L, did inventory intelligence, helped both buy and sell side teams to optimize for their budgets and sell more stuff, right? So I think I spent close to 7 to 8 months there. Then I think was always intrigued by the tech ecosystem in India, specifically. I mean, technology in India is still booming, and a lot of good companies were coming up during the point of time. So I thought I should probably move on to something which is more horizontal. Plus, it's also at the cusp of technology and like mainstream businesses. So I was introduced to two fund managers who run this fund called Speciale Invest. So I started working there I joined there as an analyst. So I think now it's been around 1.5 years for me at this fund, and I'm currently working as an associate at the fund, doing multiple things. I think doing sourcing for the fund, doing due diligence for the fund, and also helping some of our portfolio founders raise the next round of funding, help them with strategy, go to market, pricing, etc. So I think all
Yeah,
in all, it's a very exhaustive role. I think was super lucky to get into the VC business
yeah. That's
so early on
amazing.
in my career.
That's
And
Go ahead,
yeah,
please.
so I think to give you like more flavor, yeah, so to give you like more flavor about the fund itself. So
Sure.
we are a deep tech focused venture capital fund investing in both software and hardware companies across India, US, and Israel. So
Mm-hmm.
we typically invest in enterprise focused software and hardware companies. So some of our successful bets have been in sectors like space technology, electric vehicles, um, then aerial mobility, then sales tools, developer tools, MLAI companies on the SaaS side, right? So we typically invest in very future-looking founders and future-looking sectors. So trying to like just spend some time building technologies out of India for the world. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I think um, I mean, it kind of shows that you have had some experience in this space, such that you can offer some insights of just in general how VC is in the VC space is in India. Can you just share a little bit about the landscape in general? Are VCs more focused on technology? Are they more focused on? Is there like a diversity of funding opportunities, or do you think there is like a concentration of VCs on tech solely, or there is opportunities for people who are interested in other aspects of the VCs who are interested to invest in other industries as well?
Sure. So I think there are two views to it. One is like a stage spread of the venture capital funds, and the other is the strategy of the fund and the thesis of the fund. So I'll probably take both the lenses and explain you the landscape in India. So if you talk about the thesis aspect of it, so there are two kinds of funds in India. One is the more agnostic and global large VC funds that like Sequoia, Axel, Matrix, Lightspeed, and all of these guys. So all of them are present in India doing a lot of deals. There's a lot of capital that these guys hold, and they're investing across every sector from consumer to fintech to enterprise to deep tech. Now some of them have also started doing deep tech, right? So these are your more agnostic funds, large funds, global funds, right? And then the other aspect of it is like more specialized funds like ours. So we have like a defined thesis that we'll only do deep technology companies. Similarly, we have a couple of younger funds in India who are working on, let's say, a thesis in the D2C space, that is direct to consumer brands. Then there is a fund which only invests in SaaS. So again, that's a more concentrated thesis that these guys have like a sectoral view, and also that's a reflection of the kind of background that the general partners of the fund come from, right? So again, these are the two main kinds of funds. And if you talk about the stage split, I would say majority of the larger funds are pre-series A, series A kinds, but a lot of them have also started doing seed bets now. So I would say all of the larger funds are very stage agnostic as well, from seed to series B, series C as well. And but again, I think the early stage capital is still very prevalent in India, but majority of the late stage capital was coming from China or was coming from the US. But that will be changing with time, that like larger Indian funds are being raised who have the capabilities to invest at series B, series C as well. A lot of PE funds have also started in India, domestic PE funds who are also writing like larger checks in all these companies. So I would say again, initially it used to be a lot of focus towards early stage, but now I think some funds with larger AUMs and allocations have also started investing in India at Series B beyond, at Series B plus. So yeah, that's the landscape at whole. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So just take a step back here. Like, what inspired you? Because I think it would be nice for people to know about your own personal journey of how you, the people that helped you along the way to where you are, and did you have any, mentors along the way, or people that guided you to this point, and what really makes you excited to be in the VC space?
Right. So I think a couple of points. I always loved found and smaller organizations. So I think the biggest reason during my college days, I was working with a lot of, and Flipkart was not like an MNC. It was obviously a large scale company, but still the way it functioned or the culture in the company was very startup like. So I would say I always loved working with smaller teams who have like greater impact. So I think VC is like a direct fit to that. And also I think other aspect is I love working in uncomfortable, or I would say unusual situations. So I think startup world in general is super risky. There's very less clarity on what you have to do. Plus it's like a multitasking heavy industry, right? Even both startups and investing, that you need to do everything. You need to source companies, you need to do the due diligence, and you also need to manage these founders. So I would say I always loved working on more horizontal functions where I can do multiple things at the same point of time. So I think just got lucky that whatever I wanted to do, I think VC was the correct fit for that. So I think I would say a mix of like risk taking abilities plus working at an early stage in smaller organizations, plus working on horizontal functions what pushed me towards VC.
That's awesome. Did you have any mentors that help, kind of help you, or or not just maybe physical mentors, but like stories that you read that inspire you to say, okay, this is something that that might be a huge impact here, and I can contribute to something bigger than myself. Just curious
Yeah.
about that.
So then no one specific as such, but a lot of my college seniors were working for venture capital funds. They were founders themselves. So obviously you get that inspiration while you're in college that your seniors have built, let's say, a unicorn or a multi-million dollar company, or they're leading investors in tech companies. So I think a lot of my seniors were definitely an inspiration, and at least they were the guiding light that, yeah, if someone from my college can go there, then definitely there's a definite chance that I should also try for like VC or startup world in general.
That's amazing. For people that are curious about India, like as VCs or not, small VC firms, or large VC firms, or entrepreneurs who want to get into India,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and play a role in the entrepreneurial and investment platform. What advice would you give them um, to to be well prepared for any uh, to be prepared for the entrepreneur, for the ecosystem in India? What will be some of the tips or advice that you might share with them?
Got it. So I think if
You
we
can.
talk about founders who are targeting the Indian market, so a couple of points there, that India is a very local market. I mean, every state has its own language, every state has its own culture. So it's a very, I would say, local driven market. So you need to understand the nitty-gritties of the market, how the consumers behave. This is more from a B2C product perspective or consumer product perspective. And you need to understand the local nitty-gritties. If it's like a SaaS company which is being built from India for the world, then I think it's different, because again, there you need to have that global lens, and it needs to be at the cutting edge of technology. So, but if you're building like a consumer product, I would say understanding the consumer markets is super important. Then next, I
Mhm.
would say there's a lot of good talent in India, both from an engineering and a business point of view. So you should definitely look to leverage that. Should hire the right team and probably build like a great network of people in India. If you talk from a investing point of view for someone who wants to be an investor in Indian companies, I would say again, Indian ecosystem is super large, but there are definite pockets like a couple of cities down south, a couple of cities in the north, where a lot of these founders start building their products. Right, you need to have like a local footprint, given that the number of venture capital funds and angel investors investing in India is now going up, and it's super competitive at the early stage. So you need to have like that's you need to have the correct access to the founders. So you need to be locally present. I would say that's the best case. But even in case you're not locally present, you should have someone who's specifically looking at Indian markets. You can't really um, like have one person looking at the entire Asian market, given that India in general is producing like a lot of entrepreneurs on a daily basis. So it's a super large market. You need to meet the right founders at the right point of time. Otherwise, there are multiple people and multiple sources of money for all the bright founders.
Mhm.
So I think it's a very access heavy uh, driven. Like it's super access driven at the early stage at this point of time. That might
Yeah.
change in the future, but at least for now, it's super access heavy. So you should focus on sourcing a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And thanks for sharing that. I think the localization of just how you approach emerging markets can actually go a long way for creating the value and success that you need. Just a
Yeah.
few couple of questions here. On face value, what do you think is beyond like the tech space, and that seems to be like a trend in India, just from your inclination and based on your experience working where you're working now, what do you think is like the next trend in India in terms of the next big thing, or do you think yeah, sure.
Right. So I think a couple of observations, and these are obviously affected by the way pandemic happened, and a lot of sectors got like positive tailwinds. So I would say I think online transactions and online commerce in general, though it's super crowded now, there are multiple people doing that, but it's still like a super large market given the population of our country. So I would say anything which enables you to sell online, to buy online, to give you services online would be like a very big market always. And a subset of that is also like finance companies or fintech companies who are enabling you to buy stuff online. So I would say payments, for example, or insurance, for example, would be like super large markets always. Then the next set of solutions is given that there was pandemic recently and people are now staying back home. So the consumption at home for local brands, both in foods and beverage or even wellness products, is going up. For example, a lot of people are using good cosmetic products for the skin, or a lot of people have started consuming protein bars. So I think a lot of digital brands would also see good traction, given that people are now very focused on the kind of stuff they eat, the kind of stuff they wear, the kind of stuff they put on their skin. So I would say that there has to be a significant tailwind towards specific niche brands. Then I think basic facilities or like basic sectors or fundamental sectors like education or healthcare would always be large in India, given that there's a big population, there are multiple white spaces. So these sectors would be like all like these sectors always have multiple opportunities to make or to build $1 billion businesses from. So I would say these three would be my top choices.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thanks for sharing that. And I think one thing that that I've actually been thinking about is, what is Indians' role in hopefully maybe in maybe major partnerships like Africa or Latin America. What's your take on having entrepreneurs interacting with entrepreneurs in Africa or Latin America? Have you seen that happening based on your experience, or is this something that you have been curious about? Just one, if you can share a little bit about if you've had the experience of
Yeah.
yeah.
Got it. So I think again there are multiple other developing countries apart from India also that like Indian investors and global investors have like a point of view on. For example, Southeast Asia, Indonesia is like a big market now. A lot of people have started investing there. I think for Africa, etc., I personally haven't really spent a lot of time on to understand the markets, but I'm sure there are a lot of funds who are doing like investing in all these small markets as well. Because I think again there are multiple white spaces in a place like Africa. I mean, technology can definitely change a lot of things. I mean, personally, the kind of companies that I've seen in Africa were more towards renewable energy or good sources of energy, climate. So something which is for let's say which is helping solar plants get mainstream, because I think there are multiple geographic needs as well of the country. So people who are catering to all these geographic needs, plus obviously Africa is a big market given the population as well. But yeah, personally, I haven't really met a lot of people who are investing out of India in all these geographies.
Oh, that's fair.
But I'm sure
Yeah.
that is about to change. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And something I was just curious about. I think there might be some players from India, or there might be some transcontinental partnerships that from a local level, but also from a transnational level. But that's very interesting. Do you have any words of? And I know this sometimes it might not. Any words of advice, or maybe something that you wish to share with the listeners about how to just think of approaching these markets, how to think of being as being effective as a VC, or just staying calm and motivated in a space that you are in. If you have any advice on that, that'll be amazing.
Got it. So I think for anyone who's looking to enter the VC world, one is definitely you need to have that sort of network so that you can source the best companies for their fund. I mean, just from an India perspective, I think it's again getting heavy on the access side. So you need to have that kind of network to attract the best founders. Then I would say it's always good, or it's always better to have worked in some particular industry before you enter VC, so that you at least have that unique perspective on that sector. Obviously, majority of the investors are generalists, because that's the need of the job that you need to understand multiple sectors quickly. So most of them end up being generalists, but obviously you need to have some sort of a perspective or unique perspective on a couple of sectors that gives you an edge over other, I would say, over other investors to pick up trends quicker than them. And I mean, you can be like a better investor if you have a niche within the entire sectors. Then I would say like keep speaking to founders. I mean, that always gives you a unique perspective on things. I think empathy is also super important if you are like an investor, because apart from the money, you're also investing your time in a particular company. At least for us, I mean, we love spending a lot of time with the founders, help them build the business from scratch. So I think you should be founders first in your approach, and I think money is just a part of it. But yeah, I think helping the founders on hiring, on raising the next funding, uh, breaking down the market, understanding the market, go to the market, and like get your first few customers. I think these are some aspects that all these investors can be of like good help. So I would say spend good amount of time to understand what founder needs and how can you help the founder in any shape or form.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And just the very last question.
Sure.
I interviewed a great guest the other day, and I think one thing that was seemed to be a conversation. It seemed to be one of his suggestions was that in emerging markets we need people that we don't need unicorns, we need camels. Um, and and he said camels was more based on, you need people that they look at things in the long term. They can, it's a slow but profitable perspective on how they build their companies, but also they have to carry or build an ecosystem, right, that can actually help live, uh, you know, build that industry in some sense. I'm just curious, what do you think of that comment or that statement, which he clearly articulated in his book? It's called Out Innovate. What do you think of that? And is it something that has crossed your mind in the VC space?
Yeah. So I think again, like very rightly pointed out that not every company can be a $1 billion company, and not every good company needs to be a $1 billion company. I mean, you can have multiple companies who are like multi-million dollars, who are doing good work, who are profitable, they're making money for both the investors and themselves. So I would say people generally overhype the valuation part of it, which is like a hypothetical value. I think like another lens to see the impact of a company is also how many people has it uh, like affected in terms of have like if it's a fintech company like has it led to multiple people owning a new bank account, or has it increased the amount of transactions that are happening online. So I think impact on the consumer segment is also something which is super important to judge. I think valuation is just a part of it or a reflection of it,
Yeah.
but I would say yeah, definitely we need more patient capital as well flowing in, because especially in our domain, I think hardware and software companies, I think takes time to build like a large company. It takes time for revenues to stabilize. So I think investors and both founders need to be patient and have that sort of mindset that the gestation period would be higher. You just need to wait it out, and there's enough money to be made in every market, I would say.
Yeah, that's a very excellent assessment, and I agree with you on that. Anirudh, it's been a pleasure to have you. I'd love to have
Yeah,
you again. I think you're a very knowledgeable
absolutely.
um, guy for us to listen and learn more about the VC space, specifically in India, but just in general. I think you have a full breadth of knowledge and experience that I would love to hear more from you. But as of now, we really appreciate. I appreciate your presence here, and I thank you so much for making the time to be on the pod.
Absolutely. I think I loved what you asked and would love to come back again and just share my thoughts. Thanks a lot
Definitely.
again for having me.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you. Take care, man.
Yeah.